Okay, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone. Time appropriate greetings to all the attendees of this live webinar. Welcome. Today we're talking about migration, we're talking about digitization, and in this particular case, we're looking at a large ERP being migrated onto AWS infrastructure. In this particular case, Germany's SAP on Oracle database backend being migrated from an in-house provision over onto AWS infrastructure, and some of the business wins, some of the business outcomes that's produced for our particular case study business today, who are Essel Mining and Industries Limited. They're part of the Aditya Birla Group, probably India's largest mining company, based in 35 countries all over the world, so a very large company. I'm delighted today to be joined by NNR, who's SAP Practice Head at Minfy, who spearheaded and managed this migration. Also, again, Essel Mining, that's Saurav Das, he's CIO of that particular company. And also David Payne, who's Head of Enterprise Applications and Database for the ASEAN region at AWS. So and I should introduce myself, shouldn't I? I'm Joe Green, I'm a technology journalist, and I also present the Tech Means Business podcast. So with no further ado, I'll transfer over to David now, who'll maybe give us a few words of introduction and get this webinar started. Thanks very much, David.
Hello, and thank you, Joe. SAP software, including enterprise resource planning and business warehouse, is used by about 92% of Forbes Global 2000 companies. Now, there are more than 5,000 customers who run SAP on AWS. Of those, many have chosen Oracle as their relational database. SAP will provide mainstream support for SAP Business Suite, including ECC 6 through 2027. This means that customers must consider when, how, or whether to convert to SAP S/4HANA. However, the business case for SAP S/4HANA isn't straightforward for every customer, and according to the Americas SAP User Group. In this webinar, we'll explain how SAP on Oracle customers can modernize and innovate with AWS and Minfy. Well, business conditions in 2020 have been highly unusual, and we've noticed that customers' business drivers for migrating to cloud have changed. First, many enterprises have had a significant cut to the previously allocated capital budgets, and they've also been dealing with reduced operational expenditure. It seems that working remote is here to stay, and of course users need secure and flexible access to their applications, just as if they were in the corporate office. Therefore, there's never been a more important time to focus on cybersecurity. Customers and employee engagement channels are also being scaled up around digital delivery. And finally, many enterprises are no longer assuming access to their physical infrastructure or their data centers. So the AWS Migration Acceleration Program is a comprehensive and proven cloud migration program that is the result of AWS years of experience migrating hundreds of enterprise customers and their workloads. It incorporates best practices, expertise, tooling, some financial incentives, and competent partners, including Minfy, to make cloud adoption easier. Now, AWS has completed a financial and economic analysis of more than 1,000 migration customers. You'll notice that across all these customers, AWS has contributed to an approximately 19% reduction in overall IT infrastructure spend. And when this is measured on a per user basis, it's around about 27%. Applications with more than 1,000 users actually yield even larger savings in TCO. We've also observed, that customers who have maximized their investment in AWS rather than a multi-cloud strategy are getting the benefit of reuse and economy of scale. There are 4 pillars in the AWS Cloud Value Framework, starting with cost optimization. In addition, customers create value around staff productivity, operational resilience, and agility. Here are some examples. Del Monte Foods has migrated around about 50 SAP environments to AWS, resulting in a 35% reduction in the total cost of ownership. The highly automated approach meant that the complex migration to AWS was completed in just 3.5 months, which is actually 3.5 months ahead of the original schedule. Fast Retailing is the parent of Uniqlo, and they've shared that their fast-paced industry requires data and analytics in real time. The deployment of SAP HANA on AWS enabled an agile approach to resizing infrastructure and business operations in just minutes. And finally, Pampa Energia has shared that the combination of SAP and AWS has given the business resilience that just wasn't possible on-premise. By now, you're probably starting to think ahead about the business and technical considerations of cloud migration. Frequently asked questions from business stakeholders include, how long does migration take? Is there an impact on my business operations? And how much will it cost? SAP administrators frequently ask about how SAP on AWS is supported, what versions are supported, and how do I test and verify my systems post-migration. To answer these questions and more, it's my pleasure now to introduce NNR from Minfy Tech. NNR, over to you.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Joe. So this is NNR. So I am heading the SAP practice in the Minfy Technologies. So let's talk about Minfy. Minfy is a born-in-cloud organization established in 2014. So far, we have served around 400 customers, more than 2,000 instances, and we have a 220 plus global team. And we are a premier and public sector partnership with AWS. And you can see our growth year on year is around 153%. So far, we have done 750 plus cloud migrations. We have a 125 plus certified cloud engineers team. And you can see the awards year on year. We are keep on getting the multiple awards. This year, we got Consulting Partner Year of the Award from AWS. And we are a partner in the AWS network. Then the main question is how any company can become a partner to the AWS. AWS will validate the partnership in different competencies. So we got around 8 competencies certified through AWS. So that's why we became a bigger partner with AWS. This is about Minfy. And these are the major customers, a public sector, NSDC, National Skill Development Corporation, Budget Paints from Bangladesh, and Felix, Shobha Developers, Kalpana, Deccan Cements Limited, Himadri. These are the few of these SAP customers for whom we migrated their workloads onto AWS. Now, I am handing over to the Shaurav, the CEO of the Essel Mining. Shaurav, this is to you.
Thank you, NNR. Firstly, let me introduce my group and my organization. So we are part of the Aditya Birla Group. Joe introduced us. We are one of the premium conglomerates and having presence in more than 30 odd countries. And we are into various businesses starting from cement, pulp and fiber, financial services, aluminium, and so on and so forth. So we represent the mining and mineral resources business of the Aditya Birla Group, and we are called as Essel Mining and Industries Limited. At Essel Mining and Industries Limited, which was set up about 6 or 7 decades ago, we are into multiple businesses within the mining arm. And first, we started with iron ore. We are one of the foremost in the country in iron ore. we have been there for about 6 or 7 decades. We are also into coal MDO. We are one of the foremost and one of the largest in the country in coal MDO. We are into ferroalloys, where we are one of the industry leaders, be it in ferro titanium or ferrovanadium. We are also a niche player in diamond mining. We are one of the very few select in this country to be in diamond mining. So that's about our business portfolio, and that's who we are. Now, coming to the cloud story, so quite a few developments happened. I mean, first of all, we done a 24/7 and very large operations. I mean, one coal MDO is about 30 million metric tons. That's the quantity, that's the volume we are talking about. Secondly, we are in a changing business ecosystem. A lot of the business paradigms have undergone change in the mining and mineral resources business in India. We also operate under complex regulatory compliances. And finally, we are in an evolving business portfolio. So new businesses come into our business portfolio, some of the sunshine sectors, some of the sectors that are sunset. So that's the world that we operate in. So with that background and considering our ERP as a digital core, we understood what is it that we are looking from. And I think 4 things that we are critically looking from this, we were looking for our ERP and moving our ERP on a cloud platform. First of all is performance. As I said, we are a 24/7 large operation, so performance cannot be compromised. Second is accessibility, and with the onset of the 2020 pandemic and things like that, we said we need anything, anytime, anywhere. So accessibility became very important. Third, the scalability. As I said, new businesses come into our portfolio. We have to onboard new businesses. Some of the old businesses are sunset and things like that. So scalability is something that's very important. And finally, the fourth and the most important factor, which will render the other 3 useless, is security. So that is what we were expecting, and with that expectation, we ventured into the cloud journey. So migration challenges, were many. We had a lot of, we were facing a lot of the unknowns, as NNR talked about, and David also talked about a few things. So typical questions: how will the migration take? What applications will not be there? So we had a very, very critical requirement of a near zero downtime, because every minute of downtime meant direct top line and bottom line loss for us. So we said that near zero downtime is what we are looking at, and that's when we approached AWS and their partner Minfy, and we said that how can we do that? And we did a technical evaluation around that, and we also did a proof of concept on that. So that was one of the key requirements. Secondly, as I said, the scalability part, how we can seamlessly and scale up our users. And then finally, the other aspects that comes with any project on the cost, scope, schedule, and things like that.
Thank you, Saurabh. I will explain about this migration a bit.
Sure.
Yeah. So you have heard about the client requirement. Now what we did is we took the below migration approach here. This is nothing but SAP Migration Acceleration Program. Any new customers who are having a very large size of infrastructure resources consumption can enroll themselves into the MAP program. Okay, even if you are enrolled into the MAP program or not, the approach of the migration will be same as you are seeing here. We start with the migration factory approach. Within the migration factory approach, you will have a repeatable templates and comprehensive engagement approach is there. This is the main approach we start. Then we go ahead with the industry best practices and available automated tools. Then using the expert team, we migrate this entire workloads from the on-premise to AWS. Even within AWS also, from one region to another region, we can migrate. And because of this migration approach, if anyone is enrolled into the migration acceleration program, funding incentives are also available. Okay, that is the main advantage of enrolling into the MAP program. The other three results is quite low TCO is, yes, you can achieve it, and faster migration is the process, what we are going to talk in the next slides. And modernizing the SAP landscape is up to the customer. Once migrated to innovate, automate the things, they will go ahead with the modernization of SAP landscape here. Now let's talk about exclusively, we know that SAP can be installed on multiple RDBMS. It can be on Oracle, it can be on HANA, it can be on MaxDB, it can be on Sybase, okay, and it can be on SQL Server. So here we are going to talk about SAP Oracle DB, and let's see the supported matrix here. If you look at the supported matrix, 11.2042 19C database versions are certified on AWS platform. And the main important point here is the supported OS version on AWS is Oracle Enterprise Linux. This is the key thing while we are choosing the OS. After that, SAP supported application types, especially Unicode deployments, are only acceptable to migrate on AWS. So non-Unicode deployments will be converted prior to migrating on AWS. And others important thing is Oracle database for SAP application is supported on AWS EC2 only, not on AWS RDS managed services. Similarly, Oracle real application clusters rack is not supported on AWS EC2. These two are the limitations while we are migrating from on-premise to AWS. Coming to the licenses, most of the customers buy the license from the SAP. That means SAP application integrated license, most of the customers will buy. So we can bring your own license onto the AWS, no need to purchase again. That is the one of the advantage here. The next license what you buy is Oracle license support if you are really required it. Otherwise, from the community AMIs, OS, Oracle will anyhow will support it, but with a little basic support we need to take if you want any support. Otherwise, using the SAP software license, we can raise a ticket. That ticket will be forwarded to Oracle vendor also. Okay. And coming to the AWS services, based on the pay as you use, okay, to keep on paying the cost. So there is no need to take any exclusive license in the AWS services. The main migration approach, what we have adopted here is reduce the downtime solution to migrate. This is nothing but cross-platform transportable table space using the cross-platform incremental backup. This has three high-level steps. One is prepare, second one is roll forward, third one is transport or final cutover phase. These are the three high-level phases is involved in this migration approach. Usually, this approach is database native approach. This is not SAP suggested approach. SAP suggested approach naturally belongs to classical migrations. It may be homogeneous migration or heterogeneous migration because the customer requirement is to reduce the downtime. Because of that, we gone ahead with cross-platform transportable table space. In this, if you notice, during the prepare phase, there is no downtime is involved. We just take the required data files, copies from here, from the SAP table spaces. Then in the roll forward phase also, there is no downtime involved. Roll forward will be happening on the AWS. We build a target system. On the target system, we keep on transfer, converting, and applying the incremental backup to the destination data files. And the final in the transport phase, this is where on-premise, the downtime starts. The final roll forward phase, hardly it will take 10 to 15 minutes based on the number of transactions. If the transactions are too heavy, then only it will take 10 to 15 minutes. Otherwise, hardly it will take 5 minutes. Overall, in the on-premise, it will take only 1 hour to export the metadata and to execute the final roll forward phase. This is the real downtime, actually technical downtime here. After that, we import that metadata into the destination database. Then we keep the database read-write mode. With that, our migration is completed. That is the biggest advantage here. In this approach, if you notice, platform change you can do it, database upgrade also you can do it in one step, just using the one of the Oracle RMAN utility. Okay, and this RMAN utility is a free utility, Oracle native utility for backing up, restoring, and recovering the Oracle database. Okay, because of this approach, we are able to reduce the downtime from days to hours. This approach is typically dominated by metadata operations, not data file transfer and conversions. That means this downtime does not increase with the database size increase. The downtime increases only if metadata object size, number of metadata object size is increased, then only it will increase little bit. Otherwise, it does not matter whether it is a 2 terabytes database or it is a 10 terabytes database. The downtime we can still maintain with near zero downtime. That is the advantage of this approach. And here you can see in the client location, we will have a dev quality production. Then between on-premise and AWS, we will set up a VPN connection using a customer gateway and VPN gateway. After that, the POC will be launched in the availability zone 1 first. Then we'll showcase. After that, we go ahead with the migration of the rest of the products like dev quality production, or if you have a Solman will also be migrated here. This is how it looks like. Once you migrated from here, this is how it looks like. You can put all these resources in one availability zone, or you can distribute across availability zone 1, 2, 3 in one region. AWS is having maximum 3 availability zones in one region. And coming to the HANA database, some of the customers wants to migrate their database from Oracle to HANA database. In this case, the approach is a different approach. Here, what we do is we go with database migration option with system move using the SAP SUM tool. This is a SAP standard tools. Using this, if database size is small, we can directly migrate Oracle database to HANA database in single step. During this single step, you can update the system update like for EHP versions from 4 to 5, 4 to 7 like that, and Unicode conversion can be done, and database migration is also happening at same time. In this case, we are not using any third party. Okay, only one tool, that is SUM tool. Within the SUM tool, we are using the database migration option with system move. This is how we can migrate directly from Oracle database to HANA database also. And coming to the Essel mining, this is where we will see the case study. Practically how much time it took to migrate. You can see here, Essel mining was running with AIX 6.1 and Oracle database 11.2.02. And target environment, what we choose on AWS is Oracle Enterprise Linux 7.8 and Oracle database 11.2.04. During this migration, the challenges, as I mentioned, we faced these two challenges. Reducing the business downtime is very, very important, and reducing the technical downtime is very, very important. To reduce the business downtime, we choose the approach cross-platform transportable table space. And to reduce the technical time especially during import of metadata, we choose a higher instance type with higher provision IOPS, so that the metadata import operation took very little time. That is where we have done this. And why the client have chosen AWS is the mainly SAP and AWS together working for last 12 years. Okay. And almost more than 5,000 active AWS customers run SAP on AWS. because of migrating to AWS, you can improve the productivity and low cost and agility and higher operational resiliencies. We can achieve it. The architecture you can see here, how we migrated. This is their Essel Mining corporate office. They have their group office here. And from here, we have a AWS Direct Connect. Using the Direct Connect instead of site-to-site VPN, they are already a customer of AWS Direct Connect. Okay, the new account has been attached, shared here. Then we got the connectivity to the AWS. Then we put the dev instance on edge 1 and remaining instance on availability zone 2. And for the DR, we proposed a low-cost solution using a third-party tool called Cloud Endure DR. This one we suggested to the Essel Mining. And these are the outcomes and success matrix. This is where Saurav is talking about the performance. Saurav, this is for you.
Yeah, I mean, NNR, thanks for nicely explaining the steps that we took and the success criteria in terms of the performance you have, put very nicely. I also want to mention that, we did the proof of concept on the dev and the QA and leverage that learning for the production, because that's the downtime that really mattered. And it also required very meticulous planning, understanding the challenges and things like that. Because at the beginning of everything, I mean, we had multiple options and multiple theories, as NNR you mentioned, about the classic SAP migration vis-a-vis the approach that we took. And that's where the POC answered a lot of the questions. And the third thing is we did this entire exercise when the whole world was undergoing a shutdown because of the pandemic. So everyone was working remotely, and so that added some additional challenges and things like that. But finally, those numbers, I think they speak for themselves. Thanks. Yeah. Back to you, Anand.
Thank you, Saurav. And coming to any new customer, for example, if any new customer wants to go ahead with the migration, what will be the approach? Okay, the first approach, what we do is we do a migration readiness assessment. This is the assessment phase where we will study your environment and we will give you an estimation on TCO report in the beginning itself. In the mobilize phase, what we do is we do a POC, proof of concept, with all our expert and with the rough planning. Okay. Then in the mobilize phase, you feel that yes, things are working for you. Then we will go ahead with the actual migration. In the third phase, we do the real migration, then operating the migrated environment, then modernizing the environment based on the requirement. These are the three phases, first, second, and third. We start with any new customer. Then from SAP, from Minfy point of view, we are offering reduced downtime bundle, early bird offerings we are doing. Let's see that what it is. Any customer, if they want to migrate their Oracle DB from on-premise to AWS, it hardly costs them, infrastructure cost is roughly around $2,000. Okay. And this migration cost is one time, that is $15,000. And the environment, sample environment I have given here, that is a dev environment, QAs, both are on 2 single nodes. Production is on multi-node, SAP router, Solman. And in this case, high availability DR solution point of view, we suggested automatic recovery and backup. And DB size roughly we considered for the resources is 244 GB. And this price is transparent to every customer. If you click this monthly calculator, you can see that in detail what will be the prices. Yeah, you can see here what kind of instance we are using and how many hours we are going to run that environment. If you see here, dev is 9 hours, QoS is 9 hours, prod is for 24 hours, Solman 24 hours, SAP router is for 2 hours, and the the disk size, how much disk size we are going to use. All the details have mentioned in this monthly calculator. From this, you arrive your monthly bill. Even though if you see here, you got roughly around $1,600. For the safer side, I kept $2,000. Okay, and this is how price AWS prices are very transparent. Okay, there is no hidden charges. Everything you can upfront see the prices. The another one is if any of the customer wants to migrate from Oracle DB to HANA DB, in this case, the infra cost will be $3,000. You may be surprised why this cost has been increased 50%. The reason is in case of HANA database, we need to use high memory instance types. HANA database itself is a in-memory database. That is the reason we need to use a bigger instance type. That is where the infra cost will be increased and the migration cost one time will be the same because the efforts are same. But in case of if you are going for a bigger database size migrations directly from Oracle DB to HANA DB, in that case, we suggest to the customers in first migrate Oracle DB from on-premise to AWS as it is, then convert into the HANA DB. Because of that, the downtime will be reduced because here we don't go for the reduced downtime approach. Here we are going to go ahead with, as we discussed earlier, it is using a sum tool data migration option we are going to use. That is the reason there are two approaches here. Depend upon the database size, we can pick one of that. And the environment is same, similar to the earlier slide. The cost will be increased only at the infra level. And here also similarly, you can see the monthly calculator. There you will get detailed cost. And as part of a early bird offering, for new customers, we are offering around 4,000 free credits. And these 4,000 free credits for any customer who wants to migrate from Oracle DB to Oracle DB can make use of this if they submit their RFP by the 30th November 2020, and they need to make use of these 4,000 free credits within the 6 months. These are the two terms and conditions to avail these free credits. In case of Oracle DB to HANA DB, 6,000 free credits have been provided here for the new customers. And the registration, you can scan this QR code or using this link, you can approach the sales team and you can register. Thank you, everyone. Joe.
Well, that's marvelous. Thank you both very much. Really very informative. I've got a couple of questions actually, which I'd like to pose to each panel member. Sarah, if we put aside that little point that you threw in there, which I thought was very effective, that actually this migration took place during the COVID epidemic and all that entailed. But if we just put that to the side for one moment, what were Essel Mining's main pain points that you were experiencing that made you start thinking about migrating onto a cloud-based provision?
Sure. So I think as regards the pain point, we have been on SAP for about a decade now, and that's how our infrastructure and everything has been running. That's number one. Number two, our business has changed. I mean, when we started on SAP, we had only our iron ore business on SAP. Then the multiple coal businesses came on the landscape. Then the other businesses like our beneficiation business came on the landscape, our ferroalloys business came on the landscape. So things kind of changed. Third thing is that, as I mentioned, the scalability became very important. I mean, we understood that, earlier times are different, but going forward, things would be different. We'll be needing to get more businesses, more users, coming on. And I mean, we need a very, very scalable model. And fourth thing is, as I said, security is of very importance to us because we cannot compromise on that. So we thought that, instead of looking into all of that and managing all of that, if we have some ready solution where we can get all these benefits, then why not look at that? And that's how we started our cloud journey, and that's when we started looking at the various options and solutions. And then obviously, halfway down, then we try to understand, if we were to migrate, then how do we migrate? And then the challenges to migration also came.
Okay, yeah, I think that'll resonate with many of the people out there listening to this webinar. I think what you've said, actually, many people will be thinking, oh yeah, that's our particular use case as well, our particular situation. And then I just want to turn to you for a moment. You mentioned there a very quick process in terms of the actual transition, that point of switchover. Just from a more technical point of view, am I correct in thinking that both in Oracle and in your other disaster recovery solutions, you were using application native tools? This isn't bespoke code you're using backup and disaster recovery procedures which are built into, for instance, SAP or Oracle, and you're using those to make that transition. Did I get that correct?
Yes, Joe. Here, the approach here, there are always based on the product owner, SAP. They promote a certain type of migration approaches, and underlying database is a different vendor in case of Oracle. So they propose a different approach. Here, what we did is, in the beginning, most of the customers prefer to go ahead with the SAP specific migration approaches in general, because it is a product native features, people prefer to use it. Unless someone is more stronger, the partners who are more experienced on that particular database underlying infrastructure like AWS infra and the database, if they know some of the features of that native product, then it is more easier. That is where we pick up this reduced downtime approach, because the client requirement is, we all know that it is a very big organization, Essel Mining. So then we thought, okay, the standard approach does not fit here. Why can't we go for a better approach here? Then we started using these database native features, and we migrated. That really we showed in POC, and customer is also very happy. Then with the next cycles like day one quality, whatever additional improvements we observed, that also we captured, and in the final run, everything went very smooth. That is how we made this project successful.
Yeah, I think that's a very impressive statistic, in that you're talking about perhaps an hour's downtime for what's essentially a database migration of 6, 10, 12 terabytes. And I think there are two aspects there. I think, first of all, many companies don't realize quite how much data they actually have. And secondly, I think in the case of Minfy there, what's actually going on is that data transfer has been happening over the course of the project, and then it's just a case of switching over and restoring that metadata, which is a much quicker process. David, I just want to turn to you for a moment now, if I may. Obviously, AWS leads the world in terms of the size of its cloud provision, and also the number of customers it has in terms of percentages. But why, if I was, for instance, in Saurav's case, why would I be choosing AWS over Google Cloud or Azure in these particular use cases?
So, Joe, SAP certified AWS as the first cloud platform for production deployment of their software back in 2011. And since then, like Essel Mining, there are now more than 5,000 customers running SAP applications on AWS. And at Amazon, we believe that there's no compression algorithm for experience. But customers do have choice, and it's a wonderful thing. And yes, SAP customers can choose AWS or many other cloud platforms, but not all clouds are in fact created equal. And there are significant differences in, for example, the availability of the cloud. For example, customers can take a look at research by Gartner or Cloud Harmony, and those organizations, for example, summarize and aggregate the availability of AWS and our competitors. At Amazon, we aspire that our service should be imperceptible from perfect, but according to Gartner and Cloud Harmony, there's a 27x difference in the availability of AWS versus Azure in favor of AWS, and that matters for customers who are running critical workloads. Clouds are not created equal also when it comes to performance, and customers can, with AWS, review the benchmark results that we've published, and as NNR demonstrated earlier, our pricing is transparent. And that means that customers can make an informed decision about the price and performance of the solutions that they're considering with AWS. And according to the published data, there's a distinct advantage in favor of AWS compared to Microsoft Azure or the other clouds that customers can choose. And then third, we get very encouraging feedback from our customers, including Essel Mining, about the capability and competence of our partners. And we've been working hard with partners, including Minfy, to improve their capabilities around the migration of these very complex systems like SAP, and hence they have attained our premier tier, our migration competency, our SAP competency, and now the MAP for SAP program. Hope that makes sense.
No, that's perfect. Thank you. And finally, if I just turn back to NNR, David mentioned there the complexity that often underpins these large deployments of SAP. Are there particular challenges when SAP is underpinned by Oracle? And if your customers, for instance, are interested in moving to a HANA database on, for instance, AWS, are there particular complexities in there that are over and above, you mentioned, the higher cost of in-memory processing? What else do people and do you guys have to consider with projects of that particular type?
Yeah, and especially the customers who are on Oracle database, while migrating the approach, this we discussed with Essel Mining also. Finally, they want to go ahead with the HANA database. Okay, that is a long-term strategy. Prior to going to the long-term strategy, because of the performance reasons and scalability reasons, accessibility reasons, and security point of view, first phase, let's migrate from on-premise to AWS as is. That is very excellent step. And even before we convince the customer and itself well aware of this approach. Yes, we would like to go as is first. Because of going as is, the complexity of upgradation of either database components or application components will be reduced drastically. That is the first thing. Okay. Once it is migrated to AWS, the main advantage what the SAP customers are going to get is there is the AWS flexibility is involved here. In case of on-premise, we don't get that infrastructure flexibility. In case of once it is migrated to AWS, you will get a lot of flexibility. That is first point. That is the first step. The second thing is, while migrating from on-premise to AWS, most of the customers, the problem they will have is which operating systems they need to choose. Yes, they can choose SUSE, even Red Hat Linux, but those two are not supported on AWS. In case of on-premise, yes, SAP with Oracle database with those two operating systems, on-premises it is supported. In case of AWS, they have to go with the Oracle Enterprise Linux. Then we can say that why, that is the question as you mentioned, why they have to go for Oracle Enterprise Linux is, you are migrating the infrastructure, underlying infrastructure of SAP applications like critical applications. While you are migrating, you should be very, very careful about the underlying OS level problems, kernel level problems. We should get rid of it well in advance. Mainly, when a database is very, very important component, when you talk about any application of any database. So Oracle databases, Oracle Enterprise Linux is mainly tested and integrated and exclusively verified every time using the Oracle Enterprise Linux. And all Oracle databases are tested on Oracle Enterprise Linux, so that you will not have any problems when you migrate any environment from one infra to another infrastructure. That is the main limitation and requirement and recommendation also. Okay. Once it is done, for the HANA database, before going to the HANA database, they can plan for reducing the archiving of the database. We are suggesting for any of the Oracle database customers who are planning to go with HANA database, prior to going to the HANA database, if they go for the data archival, then database size will become reduced. Whatever is the archived data, that we can store it on the low cost storage like S3. Within the S3, we have a multiple storage options again, so that we can reduce the cost. Another important thing is, by adopting the data archival process before going to the HANA database, the cost of the instance type, because HANA database needs higher memory instance type machines. So if you reduce the database size, then the memory requirement will also come down. This is where the customers will get the benefit of the infrastructure cost point of view and downtime point of view. Because in case of Oracle migration to AWS, we have gone with the native features like Oracle RMN, cross-platform transportable table space, we use it. But in case of conversion from Oracle to HANA database, we should go for only SAP native features. In that case, downtime is very, very important, because you need to export entire database, then transfer between AWS zones is very easy. That is not going to be a problem for us, because everything is already in the cloud. And again, into the importing the database of large database will take more downtime. This is where we are even suggesting the data archival before going for the HANA database migration. So both downtime will be reduced and the cost of the instance will also be reduced. These are the things customers need to consider while strategizing their cloud migration approach.
So thank you all very much today. The links that you'll have seen as the audience, the links that you'll have seen up in the slides will be down below this presentation in the show notes. So please do click through. There'll be some calls to action as well that you might like to follow through. And it only remains for me to thank all my guests today, David Payne, Saurav, and also NNR from AWS, Essel Mining, and Minfy, respectively. Thank you very much, guys, and I hope to speak to you soon.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Joe. And Saurav, sir, congratulations on your success.